The Enemy Part 4. Now Hannah and Sadao, they both forcefully just bring that American sailor, American prisoner of war inside their house, and Hannah covered him with the silk which was very pure white. So at once she says, "He's so dirty," she murmured in distress. Distress means in pain. Yes, he had better be washed, Sadao agreed. If you will fetch hot water, I will wash him. तो सडाव कहता है हाँ मैं इसे गर्म पानी तुम ला दो आई विल वॉश आई कैनॉट बेयर फॉर यू टू टच हिम शी सेड वी शैल हैव टू टेल द सर्वेंट्स ही इज हियर I will tell Yumi now. She can leave the children for a few minutes and she can wash. So, see the intensity of their enemyship. Hannah says that you should not wash him. I'll tell the servants, especially she says that she will tell Yumi, who is caretaker of their children, to wash him. Sadao considered a moment. Let it be so. Let it be so. He agreed. You tell Yumi and I will tell the others. So Sadao said, okay, let it be so means then you better tell her. And he says that you tell Yumi and he will tell the others. Others means other servants about him. But the utter pallor of the man's unconscious face moved him first to stoop and feel his pulse. But the utter pallor means paleness. But because so much of bleeding had occurred in his body, so a paleness was felt on his face, on that unconscious face, and so Sadao bent. He stooped. He bent and felt his pulse. कि देखिए pulse भी चल रही है कह रही. It was faint. Faint means weak, but it was there. बड़ी हल्की हल्की चल रही थी पर थी. He put his hand against the man's cold breast. The heart too was yet alive. And when he put his hand on his heart, he found that heart is also working. He will die unless he is operated on, Sadao said, considering. The question is whether he will not die anyway. So he says he will die. We will not operate it very fast. But the question is whether he will not die anyway. So he says. Hannah cried out in fear, "Don't try to save him. What if he should alive?" So Hannah says, "Don't try to save him. ये जीकर भी क्या करेगा? What if he should die?" Sadao replied. तो सडाव कहता है कि what if he should die? उससे भी क्या होगा अगर ये मर जाता है? He stood gazing. He stood gazing down on the motionless man, and he was gazing. Gazing means looked fixedly. लगातार वो उसको देखते रहे. Motionless man means still man who was lying there unconscious. This man must have extraordinary vitality, or he would have been dead by now. And then he says this man has extraordinary vigor, extraordinary energy थी इसमें तभी अभी तक जिंदा है. But then he was very young, perhaps not yet 25. And then he says अभी इतना young है तभी वो इतना जी पाया है. You mean die from the operation? Hannah asked. Yes, Sadao said. Hannah considered this doubtfully, and when she did not answer, Sadao turned away. At any rate, something must be done with him, he said. First he must be washed. तो सडाव ने कहा चलो ये सब बात की बातें हैं सबसे पहले ही शुड बी वॉश्ड उसका ऑपरेशन होगा और उसको सबसे पहले धोना पड़ेगा. He went quickly out of the room and Hannah came behind him. She did not wish to be left alone with the white man. So she did not like the idea that she is left alone with the white man. He was the first she had seen since she left America, and now he seemed to have nothing to do with those whom she had known there. And he was the first white man whom she has seen after she has left her America, and she doesn't want that she should know anybody else. Here he was her enemy, a menace, living or dead. And here now he has come in form of their enemy. He was a menace. Menace means a trouble for them. Whether he is living, he will give a trouble, and is dead, then also troublesome for him. She turned to the nursery and called Yumi. But the children heard her voice, and she had to go in for a moment and smile at them and play with the baby boy, now nearly 3 months old. And when she called Yumi, the children heard her voice, and so she waited for some time with the boy. Over the baby's soft black hair, she motioned with her mouth. Yumi, come with me. I will put the baby to bed, Yumi replied. He's ready. She went with Yumi into the bedroom next to the nursery and stood with the boy in her arms while Yumi spread the sleeping quilts on the floor and laid the baby between them. So they laid the bed for the baby because he was about to sleep. Then Hannah led the way quickly and softly to the kitchen. Then Hannah came directly to the kitchen. The two servants were frightened at what their master had just told them. The two servants over there in the kitchen, they were very afraid, they were frightened because their master, Mr. Sadao, had told them about this prisoner of war. The old gardener, who was also a house servant, pulled the few hairs on his upper lip. and they were just very concerned, and he just pulled some of his hair on the upper lip thoughtfully. The master ought not to heal the wound of this white man, he said bluntly to Hannah. और उसने हना को कहा हमारे जो मास्टर हैं, he ought not means he should not, it is his moral duty here. Ought not means moral duty, not to heal the wounds, not to operate this man, white man. The white man ought to die. उन्होंने कहा इस white man को मरना ही चाहिए. First he was shot, पहले तो उसकी गोली लगी हुई है. Then the sea caught him and wounded him with her rocks. Then the sea, he was caught up in the ocean in the sea, and then he was wounded on the rocks. If the master heals what the gun did and what the sea did, they will take revenge on us. वो कहते हैं अगर हमारे मास्टर ने उसको हील कर दिया, उसकी इंजरी ठीक कर दी, तो there's naturally army people, others, the government will not leave them. They will take revenge. वो बदला लेंगे कि तुमने उसे मरने क्यों नहीं दिया. I will tell him what you say. Hannah replied courteously. तो हना कहती है okay, I will tell him what you say. मैं उन सडाओ को बता दूंगी तुम क्या चाहते हो. She very courteously. Courteously means politely. But she herself was also frightened, although she was not superstitious as the old man was. And she was herself very much frightened, though she was not superstitious. Could it ever be well to help an enemy? वो सोचने लगी क्या एक enemy की help करनी चाहिए. Nevertheless, she told Yumi to fetch the hot water and bring it to the room where the white man was. And she now remembered that Hannah told her to bring water. She went ahead and slid back the partitions. Sadao was not there yet. Yumi, following, put down her wooden bucket. Then she went over to the white man. When she saw him, her thick lips folded themselves into stubbornness. I have never washed a white man, she said, and I will not wash so dirty a one now. So when she went to the room where that white man was lying, she opened the partition, and she saw that Sadao was not there. She saw him. Her thick lips folded themselves into stubbornness. At once she came into that stubbornness, groped her. वो एकदम हटीली ज़िद्दी हो गई. उसने कहा मैंने कभी किसी white man को wash नहीं किया और मैं इतने गंदे को अभी भी नहीं करूँगी. Hannah cried at her severely. Hannah shouted at her seriously. Severely means seriously. You will do what your master commands you. तुम्हें वही करना पड़ेगा जो तुम्हारे master order कर रहे हैं. There was so fierce a look of resistance upon Yumi's round, dull face that Hannah felt unreasonably afraid. And there was such a fierce look, such terrified look of opposition. Resistance means opposition upon Yumi's dull face, that Hannah felt afraid that she will not listen, she will not do what she wants. After all, if the servant should report something that was not as it happened, she was afraid if the servants will go and report, that will also be not good. Very well, she said with dignity. You understand, we only want to bring him to his senses so that we can turn him over as a prisoner. So she said with dignity, she said with some respect, देखो, we only want to bring him to senses. हम उसे चाहते हैं कि वो थोड़ा sense में आए, जिंदा रहे, and then we will give him as a prisoner. I will have nothing to do with it, Yumi said. I am a poor person and it is not my business. उसने कहा मेरा तो इससे कोई लेना देना नहीं, मैं तो वैसे गरीब हूँ, and it is not my business. Next, in my next video,